everyone, this is Ella. Today we will talk about a very famous hijacking case. This case happened in the United States in 1971. A robber named Cooper hijacked a civil flight plane, successfully ransomed $200,000, and fled. The FBI spent decades of investigation and already had investigated more than 1,000 suspects, and everyone still couldn't find him. This is the only hijacking case incident in the world that has not been closed so far. The reason why this case is so famous is not only because it is an outstanding case, but also because the whole process of this case can be compared to a perfect hijacking of Hollywood blockbuster. So what really happened on this day? How did the robbers succeed? We will turn back the time to November 24th, 1971. This day is Wednesday, and the day before, it is Thanksgiving Day. A man around 40 years old appeared at Portland International Airport in Oregon. He was wearing a suit and tie, a black trench coat, a pair of brown shoes on his feet, a black briefcase in one hand, and a paper bag in the other. Looking very professional, he came to the counter of the Northwest Airlines and had $20 cash to buy a one-way ticket for Flight 305 that flew to Seattle that afternoon. The name he used at that time of registration was Dan Cooper. Portland is not far from Seattle. The flight only took 30 minutes. The type of the flight was Boeing 727-100, which was the main medium and short-distance model of major airlines at that time. With a maximum passenger of 131 people, the model was discontinued in 1984 and was subsequently replaced by Boeing 737. The stairway that Boeing 727 passengers get on and off is not on the side like the current passenger plane, but on the rear of the plane. The airport security check at that time was far less strict than it is now, and there were basically no security checks steps. It was even possible to smoke on the plane. After Cooper got on the plane, he sat on the tail, 18-seat position, lit a cigarette, asked for a glass of bourbon and soda. The plane took off at 2:50 p.m. and left Portland on time. 36 passengers and 6 crew members. Shortly after the takeoff at about 3 p.m., Cooper wrote a note and handed it to a flight attendant named Schaffner into the pocket and didn't open it. Cooper walked over to see her and whispered to her, "Miss, you better take a look at that note. I have a bomb." When the flight attendant thought it was a joke, he opened the note and said, "Miss, there is a bomb in the briefcase. I want you to sit next to me and I will show you." At this time, the flight attendant sat next to Cooper. Cooper opened his briefcase, which was covered with various wires, and 8 red detonators. It looked like a bomb. Cooper calmly told the stewardess Schaffner, "Please tell the captain I need $200,000 in cash before 5 p.m. Please put this money in a backpack. I also need 4 parachutes, including 2 main parachutes and 2 spare parachutes." When the plane landed in Seattle, I needed someone to send a fuel tanker to refuel the plane. I wasn't playing around. If you couldn't meet my requirements, I will blow up this plane, he said. After listening, the flight attendant hurried to report to the captain, William Scott. The captain contacted the air traffic controller immediately after hearing the news. The air traffic controller gave a random emergency report to the relevant department. Northwest Airlines President Donald Trump approved the request to pay the ransom and ordered all employees to fully cooperate with the hijackers' requirements to ensure the safety of the passengers. After receiving the ground notice, the airport sent a broadcast to the passengers, saying that the aircraft is currently experiencing a slight mechanical failure, and the delay in arriving in Seattle will cost you inconvenience. Please forgive me. In order to keep the emotions of the passengers on board, the captain did not say so. Then, the plane was forced to hover over Puget Sound for 2 hours, and they gave the crowd some time to prepare. At this time, the FBI collected 10,000 US dollars and 20 banknotes from multiple banks in Seattle and recorded all the banknote numbers. According to the requirements of the robbers, 4 parachutes and fuel trucks were prepared, and everything was ready to wait for the plane to land. At 5:39 in the evening, the plane landed in Seattle's Tacoma International Airport. At that time, the weather in Seattle was not really good and it's really raining hard. The passengers already knew that the plane was cut off because Cooper had a bomb in his hand. No one dared to act rashly. After landing, Cooper ordered to the captain to drive the plane to an empty tarmac and led the passengers to close all the windows to prevent the sniper from shooting. Then, the hatch at the rear of the plane was opened and the ramp was put down. In order to prevent the robber from thinking that he was a police officer, an operation manager of Northwest Airlines specially took off his uniform and changed him into plain clothes. He delivered a bag containing $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes in exchange for the hatch and the rear of the aircraft. Cooper ordered all the passengers to get off the plane. In addition, he also put the flight attendant Schaffner in another flight attendant Alice Hancock, leaving only 2 flight attendants and 3 pilots. At this time, the fuel truck also drove to refuel the aircraft. Cooper told the captain the next flight plan. He asked the captain to fly in the direction of Mexico City. The speed remained at 100 knots and the landing gear remained open. The flaps were adjusted to 15 degrees. Do not pressurize the cabin, Captain. I told Cooper that these oils could not be opened to Mexico City at all. Cooper said, you don't have to control it, you just have to fly it in that direction. You can refuel in Reno, Nevada. Cooper didn't ask to go. The captain kept the rear hatch open when he took off, but the captain told him that it was too dangerous. And Cooper did not persevere this time. The airport found that the robber had a very comprehensive understanding of the aviation knowledge, which means that he's very expert, so he didn't say much. He did what he asked. At 7:40 in the evening, the rain was getting stronger and stronger. The hijack of Boeing 727 took off again. At this time, there were 5 people in the plane, the deputy captain, the engineer, and flight attendant, and Cooper himself. There is a question here. There are obviously 5 people in the plane, and Cooper only needs 4 parachutes. What on earth did he wanted to do? The crew was very frightened at this time because the bomb is still in the plane, and no one knew what he wanted to do. It can only be done in accordance with the requirements of the robber. The U.S. military dispatched 2 F-106 fighter jets, followed by Boeing 727, and a 333 trainer also participated and left behind, but later the trainer returned due to insufficient fuel. After taking off, Cooper asked everyone to enter the cockpit, and they are not allowed to come out. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the warning indicator light on the instrument panel in the cockpit showed that the cabin door was opened by someone, and then came the faint engine sounds and the wind sounds. The crew asked Cooper if they needed help through the intercom. Cooper answered no. This is the last sentence everyone heard from him. The crew did not dare to ask frequently. After a long time, they asked again. No one answered, thinking he might have jumped. At 10:15 in the evening, the plane landed at Reno Airport. The frightened crew did not dare to come out at the airport for a long time, but fortunately, everyone was safe. It turned out that Cooper's Cooper's original plan to fly to Mexico City was simply a sound shot. With his familiarity with aviation knowledge and train, he had already planned an escape route. In major cases such as hijacking, the major news media will not let this go. After the media got the news, they came to the airport early to compete for the first reporter. One of the reporters mistakenly wrote the name of the hijacker, Dan Cooper, into DB Cooper, which caused major news media to reprint the name of the hijacker. Misrepresented as DB Cooper, he has been called DB Cooper ever since. This is also the prototype of the Cooper in the classic American drama Prison Break. FBI launched a survey in this space first. They asked Kaffner, the stewardess who had the most contact with Cooper. She recalled this. He was very polite in giving instructions. When buying, he didn't want me to change and let me keep it as a tip. During the whole process, he was very calm and did not look like a robber at all. The FBI then asked the three pilots who followed him at that time. The three said that he had been staring at the plane, and they did not see anyone jump. Investigators entered the passenger plane, and Cooper left his black tie, a mother pearl tie pin in the remaining two parachutes, and 66 unidentified fingerprints were found on the plane. There was no other clue other than that. With the confession of the crew, the FBI speculated that the most likely time for the skydiving was to open the cabin door for 30 minutes, that is at 8:13 p.m. The investigator calculated its best base in his skydiving time and skydiving position. It is possible to land at the southernmost area of Mount St. Helens. So, the FBI dispatched helicopters and conducted a large-scale search of the area. It has also sent a large number of ground agents to search the local farmhouse from door to door. However, nothing was found. Within a few months after the incident, the size was small, and it has never been interrupted. In the spring of March of the following year, the FBI dispatched another 200-member investigation team composed of the Army National Guards and volunteers to conduct an 18-day thorough search of Clark and J.Z. Lane. It was April. An additional 18 days was added, and a skeleton was found in an abandoned building, but it was later confirmed to be the remains of a female teenager who was kidnapped and killed a few weeks ago. It can be said that the FBI series of search operations is unprecedented, and the location intensity is very high, but there is still no clue. Agent FBI found that Cooper was very professional in the whole process, but only when it came to the most critical parachute jump, he seemed to have a suddenly changed person. It seems that he's a little immature. At that time, it was raining heavily, and an experienced skydiver would not jump in such a bad weather. The first reason is it was too dangerous. The second one is skydiving would be blocked by dark clouds. A colleague responded to him below. It was difficult for him to land at the designated location. Although FBI invested a lot of resources to investigate the case, they never caught him. But I also think that for Cooper's nature, it should not be a coincidence to choose this day to hijack. The site was blocked by the dark clouds, and it should be known that Cooper was right. The three pilots behind may not even see that Cooper, who is skydiving in such a bad weather. However, in the decades after the incident, the FBI rescued some evidence, one after another. In 1978, 7 years after the hijacking occurred, a sign labeled 727 was found hanging near a logging road in Washington state. The sign of the latter is on the route of the flight that year. 2 years later, to 1980, a boy and his father camped in a place called Tina Beach. Later, the boy found a broken bag on the beach, opened it and saw that it is full of cash with a face value of $20. The serial number on the information shows that the money belongs to have ransom of 200,000 in that year. FBI speculated that the money flew into the water when skydiving and then floated to the beach. Then the FBI sent someone to search the nearby beaches and found nothing. With the development of technology in January 2017, the FBI found that rare earth minerals such as sulfide silk and other rare earth minerals in the particles on the trousers and ties in his pants were very rare in the 1970s. But there is a company that can be exposed to these rare elements. Cooper is likely to have been an employee of the Boeing. In the same year, a private investigator discovered some decades of parachute belts in the Pacific Northwest, which is considered to be potential evidence for D.B. Cooper. By August 2017, the investigation team found another bubble on the same area, which was considered to be part of the Cooper parachute backpack. The FBI subsequently adopted this evidence after several decades of investigation. FBI investigated more than 1,000 suspects and still did not find him. FBI announced that the serial numbers of the ransoms 1 month after the incident, reminding the public that if they found the money, please call the police immediately. After this day, the serial number of the money can be found on the relevant website, but it has been nearly 50 years. The time has passed and no money has been spent. On July 8, 2016, the FBI announced that it would suspend the active investigation of the Cooper case, citing the need to concentrate investigation resources and manpower on higher and more urgent cases. Up to this day, the case is still closed for the people. A series of doubts. Was he dead when he parachuted? Does he have an associate? How did he escape? Is he still alive? Unfortunately, this series of questions may never be answered, and it has become an open case in the history of the FBI. Do you have any idea? Comment them down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you at our next videos. Bye!